Hi, good morning, Clairina. Did I say your name right?
Yes, you did.
Good. So thank you, first of all, for accepting this invitation. And then how about we can start a little with a background or why you choose to study paralegal, and then how come you become agriculture advocate?
Yes. It's actually kind of a, sorry, I have a little bit of a cold, but um, it's actually a really weird story. So I grew up on a beef farm in Northern Ontario, and I've had passion for cattle, like since I was 6, since the first time I saw cattle walk into my dad's farm. That's when I was like, okay, this is my calling. But what happens in agriculture a lot is that it's really hard to make a living in that sector because of various factors. It is possible, but it's very difficult. So I kind of always looked for another career and just wanted to farm on the side. So I moved to Schaumburg when I was 18 years old to work full-time on a dairy farm, and I moved to that dairy farm. And when I was there, I knew I needed some sort of education, and I didn't know what. And I always say my first love is cows, my second love is law. And I've always been very interested in law and politics and whatnot. So I decided one day that I was going to go as a paralegal, and I did do that. I got licensed as a paralegal about a year ago in January, and yeah. And then my journey to being an agriculture advocate, a little bit more rocky. It's always been something that I've been very interested in. I've always loved educating the public, but I didn't really have the relatability until I went to school as a paralegal, because I'm a farmer. Like I don't really, I don't really go out of the farm very often. So I didn't really know a lot of people from the city, especially from Toronto, which is where I went to school. So going to school as a paralegal really helped me understand why people don't know about agriculture, and they do want to learn. It's just nobody's there to teach them. So I decided I would be that person to teach them about agriculture. And that's when I started my blog. And yeah, that's kind of a little bit of a background about that.
What has been your experience like trying to educate city boys about farming, and where is the lacking, where is the missing piece of the chain is in that knowledge?
So I think ever since factory farms started growing and basically people started moving out of the farms into the city, our producer and consumer gap really started to widen to a very scary level. And that's why we have a lot of issues today as to why a lot of people will like attack farmers for doing certain things, but they don't understand why we do what we do. And that's a huge issue on both sides of the coin, whether it's people who hate animal agriculture or people who totally go on the other side and totally don't, like, they don't hate it. They eat their burgers, but then they're like, oh, I like to eat burgers or whatever. Sorry. And the other people's faces. So I think the huge missing piece is that nobody is there to talk about it. The farmers, they do talk about agriculture, but not really to a huge scale. And that's what I'm looking to accomplish. I'm have the experience of talking to the public about agriculture through school, through some of my friends. And we have a missing link here because we have on one hand the 2% of Canadians that are producers, people who make the food. And then we have everybody else who, most of them haven't even been on a farm in their entire life. And they totally have no clue. Like you go to the grocery store, you get your milk, you get your beef, you don't even think about where it comes from, right? And that's the reality for most people. And then there's, of course, the extremists that they watch a video online and then they think, oh, this is how farmers do it. Farmers abuse animals. And that can't be farther from the truth. A lot of it is total misinformation and lies. And the other part, sometimes it's just not understanding what we are doing.
Mm-hmm.
Because, people have to realize that we work with 1,800-pound animals. It's not a dog, So sometimes we have to do certain things that don't look pretty, but that is necessary.
Exactly. So can you extend a little more about how you approach that missing link that city and the farmers, how you can address that to be able to start closing that gap?
That's a great question. Well, my brand is in its very early stages. I just started my blog a year ago, and it takes not even a year ago. In January of this year, I started my blog. So it's going to take years and years and years to grow. But basically, for me, the beginning of my brand is releasing a blog post every week tackling a specific thing about agriculture. So we have very many, like if you go on my website, you're going to see a lot of different blog posts about, sometimes seasonal stuff that we do. Others, I will talk about, how we raise calves, what cows do in a year. Couple things about chickens, like, fun facts about chickens. And the other thing I've really started getting into is on Instagram. The TikTok and Reels is great for educating people that are my age about agriculture, and they seem to really like it. So we're kind of, to close the gap, I'm focusing right now on my blog, of course, and also Reels on Instagram. And I'll do like fun, 15-second videos just with fun facts or, different types of things like that about agriculture.
Now that you start this journey, do you have a dream? So, because it's yourself, but I think even it's a lot of people like you that they want to start doing something to it. I don't want to say educate because we are not ignorant, but maybe more sleeping persons that they don't really care. They go to the supermarket, get the milk or the bread or whatever. So do you think it is in this new generation like yourself more passionate young people that they want to be more involved in all the process in everything, like biodiversity, agriculture? I think they are ready to know exactly. I think right now the new generation, they are more into the process, no? Be knowing, okay, I know it looks beautiful, but I want to go back and see if what was your process and where come from where is coming that meat and everything.
Yeah, I definitely think that young people are very interested in the practices of agriculture. And I think that can be a force for good or bad. And that is why I, have elected myself as to educate, especially young people, because I target young people. That's kind of my target because that's the future. And I think a lot of people in agriculture are very passionate about the industry, the people that we have now. Oh, this is
Hi.
She's gonna make a cameo here and there. But yeah, I think, sorry. I think it's really, people are starting to get a lot more interested in knowing where their food comes from, which is very good because, I talk to a lot of young people. I mostly target young people, and I get a lot of good feedback from them actually being able to learn about, different practices, not just seeing cows in the field, but actually knowing day by day what we do.
What do you think in your case now that you just start your blog and everything, what is your wishes to get more people involved? You see yourself having just the blog, or you think it's another platform that is going to be maybe better to communicate?
Yeah, I definitely think my blog is only like my first step. I would like to venture into public speaking, into colleges and universities. That's something I'm currently looking into right now. I'm writing newspaper journals. That should be something that's going to happen in the next couple of months. I do want to write a children's book, but not like just a children's book about like, not like a totally, how do you say this? You know, like flowers and rainbows children's book about farming, which is what we have right now. We don't have any like good, but a children's book that actually educates children about the realities of farming, you know, what actually happens, not just, you know, the cow has a flower in her mouth or something like that, you know. Like that's what we have right now. So yeah, public speaking. I would also probably at some point want to start a podcast. That's something that I've thought about, and perhaps even a YouTube channel. So yeah, kind of venture more into like the video audio type of way for young people, because people love podcasts, you know.
Yeah.
And I listen to them all the time, and people love YouTube channels, and that's kind of what I've been doing with Instagram Reels. I've been releasing 3 or 4 reels every single week on my Instagram, and they've been doing very well.
So what is the platform? What do you think? What is the best like a social platform to get to you guys, the younger you?
I think that there's not really a specific platform. It kind of varies. Everybody has very short attention spans, including myself. I'm very guilty of that. So that I think is why TikTok and Instagram Reels have really done extremely well lately, because people like to watch, you know, a minute video and then, you know,
jump to another thing, jump.
Exactly. But I think that blogs specifically are very well alive, and my blog really provides me with a platform, you know, like it's not just, I don't depend on Instagram or TikTok or what else do I have? Twitter, Spotify, whatever. Or YouTube. I have my own platform, and people can go on there and they can read like really a lot of posts if they're very interested. And but I think TikTok and Instagram Reels are definitely like the way of the future. Short-term videos is definitely, and of course podcasts are also very good, because I like to listen to podcasts when I'm cooking and cleaning, and I work from home. So sometimes when I'm working from home, I'll listen to a good podcast, and yeah.
Oh, very, very nice. Very nice. Do you live with your family or you live alone?
I live alone with my cat.
Wow. In what city are you?
I'm in Alliston, so just north of Toronto.
Oh, okay. I used to live in North Bay. When you say Northern Ontario, so you were down there also?
Yeah. My family has a farm right between North Bay and Sudbury.
Oh, good. Brave you that you live alone there. Yeah. So something else that you want to share that maybe you feel like is not out there about agriculture?
No, I mean, definitely as an industry and, you know, my brand specifically, we have a lot of work to do. And I think that, you know, a lot of young people are very motivated to be sharing their stories now about like that are in agriculture now. And I think that's great. You know, I see a lot of TikToks and Instagrams and YouTube videos that are aimed to educate the public, and that is great. And that's, you know, my aim as, you know, my brand is to be wanting to close that gap slowly, because it's so far out now. It's ridiculous how, you know, how much people don't know, like even little things. When I went to school in Toronto, people would ask me like what I do, and I used to milk cows full time, and they would be like, oh, do you milk them by hand? And I'm like, nope, haven't done that in 50 years. But that's not their fault. That's what they don't know. Like, how are you supposed to know if we milk cows by hand or with machines or even with robots now? And that's when I actually started realizing how wide the gap is between consumers and producers, and how much people don't know about agriculture. And then we have some specific scenarios on, I don't know if you remember, but in Canadian media, we started hearing about the palm oil, and people did not understand. There was this conspiracy theory that if butter is getting harder because cows eat palm oil. And I'm like, that's not, I actually have a blog post about that. It's actually not the reality at all. Some farmers will feed a little bit of, not even palm oil, but the byproducts of palm oil. They'll feed a little bit of their cows, but it was also during the winter. And I kind of mentioned that butter gets harder with the temperature, not because of palm oil. And we have been using that for years. Like it didn't happen like yesterday that we started feeding palm oil to the cows and now the butter is getting harder. The butter gets hard with temperature, and cows, some farmers have been feeding that for years, others haven't, but it has nothing to do, and it wasn't even proven that that was the case. But that's that's a great example of how far the producer and consumer gap is, that, somebody starts a conspiracy theory on Twitter and everybody believes it. And in reality, it wasn't that at all.
In your point of view, do you can point why that gap start growing?
Yeah. I think like when my grandfather was farming, when he was milking cows, everybody were in small towns, right? Now everybody lives in cities, and they're not around farmers. Farmers, we're all in like the country, sometimes you'll drive by and see cows, but apart from that, like people in the cities, which there is a huge concentration of now and ever growingly, they're not exposed to that. Like a lot, even I have a former vegan. When I met her, she was a vegan, and she was telling me like, why she turned vegan, because of ethics and whatnot. And she told me, she's like, well, I've never been on a dairy farm. And I'm like, well, how are you vegan and never been on a dairy farm? Like, or she hadn't even talked to a farmer in her life. And that's when I started seeing like, that's why people think like this, like people think like this because they're not exposed to it at all. And then, sometimes we'll see like a video that's very edited on YouTube and then think that's the reality. And honestly, I would probably think that if I wasn't in our culture as well, So that's why I think the producer and consumer gap really started widening, is because the more people and the more generations as well, because, let's say my grandfather milked cows and then I moved to the city, I raised my children in the city, and then my children's children are in the city. And then, the farther along you go through generations, the wider the consumer gap is, because, I might know what goes on a farm, but my grandchildren who spent their entire life and their parents who spent their entire life in the city don't know. So I think that is also a huge factor, because, in the early 1900s, everybody either had a family member or, were farmers themselves. And now, there's only 2% of the population that are producers and farmers, and 98% that are not farmers. And most of them don't even know farmers or have even been on a farm.
Yeah. And I think also, I don't know, you can correct me, in Canada, it's a little more hard to be a farmer because you have those long winters that keep farmer more insulated in the farm. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like Mexico, the we are more used to be and knowing. Of course, could be a lot of people that they born in the city and they don't know, but it's more like I'm more open because we don't have that rush. Whether you can pass and see, I think you are a little more connected with agriculture. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Like in Canada, it's really hard to be a farmer. And the land is getting extremely expensive, and it's very expensive. Like, people think that having a cow isn't expensive, but I can tell you, having a cow costs, only in feed, probably like over $1,000 a year. Just having one cow, only in feed. And then you have to have a shelter for that cow. You have to have some bedding for that cow, and etc. Her supplements. And so it's very expensive. And then you times that by, my dad has about 25 cows, but we have about 50 heads, like all of it, like the calves, bull, everything. So it's very expensive. And also, like, as much as the food prices increase, what farmers get paid doesn't. So, like, everything goes up, like hydro, gas, food, because we still have to eat as well, and we don't just eat beef, but like, everything goes up. But the prices of our animals, they don't go up. Like, you guys probably, I see a lot of people on social media complaining, oh, well, the food prices are going up so much. Well, interestingly enough, it's not going up for the farmers. Like, it only goes up at the grocery store. And so I think that's another factor. Like, farming is very difficult, and it's also very isolating if you don't have, like, a lot of farmers, they don't get out of their farms.
Exactly.
It's a full-time job. Like, it's not just 9 to 5. It's from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m., and those cows, like, we have eyes on them, like, almost all the time, so it's very isolating to be a farmer, and it's extremely difficult. And also, I think something that I struggled with is a lot of people, they don't understand what it's like to be in agriculture. Like, they think like it's rainbows and butterflies and, oh my God, we see these little calves jumping in the field. But it's actually like very isolating to be a farmer, and not a lot of people understand why we do it, because we're definitely not doing it for the money. We're doing it out of love for the industry.
Yeah, for the you have to have passion, really. I went to a beef farm, and you can see it's kind of hard being there in the way that is, like you say, 24/7, 365 days working.
Oh, yes.
You better like it a lot to be able to go out in those freezing mornings in winter, in January, like yeah. And go ahead.
You have to be crazy. You have to, I call it a disease, because it's like, my dad and I, we both have it really bad. The disease of the love of the animals. And I almost wish that I didn't, because it's a pain. Like, you miss that. It's some part of your life that's missing unless you're doing it. And, we are doing it. Like, I personally am not on a farm, but I do work on farms, and of course, work with my brand. And also I work in the dairy industry full-time, as a full-time job. So I have that. But when you don't have the farming life and you have it in your blood, it's really hard to get rid of. Like, you can't, you have to be doing it almost.
Yeah. It's like something is missing in your life, no? Like that. Do you see yourself going back and have your own farm?
Yes. Right now, it's not really in the short-term plan, but in the long-term plan, I do see myself going and taking over my dad's farm and maybe kind of changing a little bit. I have a little bit of a different vision, but yeah, I do see myself having, and I also have 2 cows right now.
Nice.
So my dad kind of keeps them, and one of them is my pet. She's she's a different breed of cow. She's a Canadian, and a Canadian cow is a dairy cow on a beef farm. I know it's kind of interesting, but she's a dairy cow that was made for the harsh winters of Canada. And she is black and red. You would see her, she's a profile of everything. She's on my profile for everything, all my social medias. And she's a great little cow. You know, she is great for doing photo shoots and everybody loves her. She's she has a nice little history behind her and she's a sweet little cow. And my other cow, she's an actual beef cow that I bred. Well, I didn't breed her, but I bought her mom and I bought her dad, and, you know, they made it and made her. And she just calved this year, her first calf. And that's actually really exciting. So,
yeah, I remember my dad was more into planting, like cotton, corn, not in animals. But I remember even myself, I am very drawn to the plants and see the fields and be there. You know what I mean? Of course, I don't see myself working out maybe here in Canada because but I love that. It is something in the life alive. Everything is alive. You know what I mean? Like the animals. I used to live in a goat milk farm in Mexico. Oh my God, they are amazing. They are so smart. So yeah, it's I love living in the farm and being close to be close to everything that is alive. No, you can see it, how they grow, how they. Yeah, it's another energy. Totally.
Yeah, it's definitely a blessing. My dad has a cow calf operation, which means we calve cows every single year. And my favorite thing is seeing these little calves and, you know, seeing them from start to finish. And that's what I love about my cow Rosa, my beef cow that I bred. I have her pictures when she was a baby. And I remember I was so excited that my cow finally gave me a heifer, and I saw her grow into this really beautiful cow and then give a calf of her own. That was actually like one of my biggest blessings, and honestly one of my biggest prides, because it was my first cow that I bred. So I was very excited about that. And yeah, it's a blessing being able, even like I have calved some cows out, and being able to be part of that experience and seeing it happen, it's totally like a different world, you know?
Yeah. It is. You want to add something to the young people like yourselves? Maybe something that is inspire them to get a little more involved in agriculture or in the farming?
Yeah, I mean, for young people, I always encourage them to get informed and talk to farmers. That's what I think is the biggest, one of the biggest reasons why we have a consumer producer gap is nobody talks to us, you know, you have to talk to farmers, go on farm tours. I press that a lot on my Instagram and my TikTok and my blog, why it's so important. Go see the farms, and specifically for the ones who are very aware of animal ethics, I strongly recommend buy local. Like, it's very important. Like, if you are passionate about animal rights, go visit a farm and buy from them, because then you can actually see and you can support the people who absolutely love what they're doing. I think all farmers love what they're doing personally, because I talk to producers every single day through my job. But if you want to make a difference and you want your food to have a great life, buy local, buy Canadian. When it comes to Canadian dairy, I think it's really important. I'm in the dairy industry, but look for that blue cow on your dairy products, and you will know that especially Canadian dairy, have the highest standards in the entire world. Mm-hmm. Like the cows, it's like going to like a 5-star hotel for humans. Like they get treated better than we do. So I always recommend people go talk to your farmers, go on farm tours, buy Canadian as much as you can, buy local, look for your blue cow, look for that red flag for beef, pork, eggs. If you can, buy from egg farmers. There's always, in my area and everywhere, I see like fresh eggs for sale sign. Go talk to your producers and you will be able to actually know where your food comes from and be very satisfied, And honestly, I think local meat, like I get all my meat from my dad, obviously, but I think that's the best tasting meat, honestly. Like I love eating my grass-fed beef from my dad and my pork and poultry from other local producers, but it's great tasting, and you can just taste the love, you can really taste the love that's put into this product. And we as Canadian farmers are very proud to be Canadian farmers.
Amazing, Clairina, amazing. Thank you so much for your time. And
thank you.
Keep doing what you're doing. That's amazing job.
Thank you.
So I will send you this when it's edited, and then I will send you the links. They are going to be published in my YouTube channel and Spotify. And see you around. So keep in touch.
Yes, keep in touch as well. And thank you so much for featuring me on your podcast. I'm really honored to be on
Thank you. Thank you to you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
See you.